And I'm joined in the studio by one of the business leaders who spent the last 2 days at the forum in Brisbane, investment banker and private equity investor Mark Carnegie. Mark, thanks for getting down here so quickly.
Thank you, Tiki.
I've got to hit you with Qantas first. Jeff Dixon told me late last year you all still have an investment company together. You've been reported in meetings with John Singleton yesterday, I think. Is there a bid for Qantas on the way with some of the old players?
I think it's inconceivable that there's a full bid for Qantas in the offing, given everything that happened, given the state of credit markets in Australia. And all I'd go back to say is it looks like accepting the 560 that was offered all those years ago is a pretty smart idea on behalf of the shareholders.
Maybe not the taxpayer, though, because I mean, what would have happened to the debt and the leverage?
I think probably it would have been one of those things where TPG managed to squeeze a whole lot of Americans out of their bonds at a very, very cheap price.
Yeah, well, indeed. Now, John Singleton was talking whimsically about a $3 billion now in cash for Qantas. For any potential bidder, there's got to be some sort of breakup involved if a bid actually happened, because Qantas International is just losing so much.
But I think, airlines are notoriously difficult businesses. There's cash, but there's also a lot of debt. There's a lot of planes. There's a lot of complexity. And there's still the unresolved issues of what are you going to do on routes through Asia to Europe when a whole series of countries use their airlines as instruments of national policy rather than companies. All
right, I promised only two questions, so let's go to the Economic Forum. How would you sum it up?
Look, I think it was a lot of very good foreplay and not much action, is my sense.
So the talk fest everybody's talking about is pretty much what...
But the thing about it was really, really promising. I thought there were a lot of really, really good noises about cooperation going forward in terms of improving productivity. I think businesses on the whole made the point that they really weren't trying to support increases in productivity in a way that meant that they were going to cut wages and conditions for people. Unions understood that productivity was going to be the longer-term way forward for Australia.
The elephant in the room, though, was industrial relations, and that wasn't on the agenda.
But I think, Tiki, my sense about that is, productivity should not turn into a conversation about who's getting the chocolate biscuits. It's got to start being a conversation about let's build some more biscuit factories. And I thought that in the room there was the beginning of those discussions. Certainly things like service sector exports into the region, certainly the whole idea about more on-the-ground service industries to be built on the back of the resources boom. I got a sense of optimism and a desire to really push the nation forward.
Well, that is interesting, because there was the Governor, Glenn Stephen, talking about really it's not the mining boom that's to blame, but actually there is a lot of pain out in the manufacturing sector and the services sector as a result of the high dollar, as a result of the mining boom.
But I think there's two different things here, which is I don't think there's any doubt that there are industries which are either import competing or export oriented, which have absolutely horrendous altitude sickness as a consequence of the ascent of the dollar. Nobody who is trying to export or was relying on tourism or sitting there and thought they could compete against imports and suddenly seen their dollar go the way is feeling anything other than really, really sick. I thought what the Governor of the Reserve Bank made a point about, though, was, we are the most heavily leveraged households in the world of the developed nation. We got drunk on credit. We are like a bear with a sore head on the hangover. That is a different thing, and I think he's right. People are grumpy because they're hungover because they drank too much debt.
Business tax, the tax cut that never happened, that is another conversation which is going to continue. I mean, is there any likelihood that we'll have a business tax cut in this term of government?
Well, my sense about that is it's all fine to talk about the nice part, which is a business tax cut. But the thing that's so booby-tracked in that room and at the tax forum last year is the discussion about increasing the GST.
Well, now, that's just not on the table at all.
Absolutely. But the truth of the matter is, if you wonder what the elephant in the room is, it's that. And I think what business and state governments should be thinking about at the moment is how they make it politically acceptable for a federal government of either description to start talking about making a change to that. Because with the Conservatives in government across all the states in Australia, it is time where you can put that on the table. And given the the ocean of pain that the states are under in terms of just shortfalls in their revenue account, it is the time for that.
Finally, the Asian century. Are we a passenger or not? There's a lot of talk about investment into Australia. You have created businesses outside of Australia. Where's the push in that direction?
Well, I think the answer is we as a nation need to super glue ourselves to Asia, both, export-oriented, welcoming investment, finding a way to export our service industries as well. We need to recognise that that is where our economic future lies, and we need, as I said, to be super glued to it. The ways to do that are through a state of mind, an intention and a direction. And I certainly got from today a sense that that was absolutely happening. So again, I felt pretty optimistic about that part.
Mark Carnegie, it's great to get your direct feedback. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tikki.